it away. I will click your slides for you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, first of all, welcome all of you. Nice you're all here. And before we start, I first want to tell you something about TUI SkillsLab. I'm from the student team from the TUI SkillsLab and Career Academy student team. You can go to the next slide.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks. And our goal is to help you guys, students, with their career. And we do this by organizing workshops, so soft skills workshops. And of course, at the moment, we are in a special situation. So our team really worked very hard to organize workshops which are related to the current situation, like this one. So they are way shorter. And we also have some different topics. But normally, you can go to the next slide. We also organize workshops, and these workshops are often related to one of these themes. So, for example, academic writing, if you have problems with your thesis or want to get some tips and tricks about how to write your thesis, we organize workshops, presentation skills, but also teamwork. And we have other skills like burnout prevention, stress management. So in normal settings, we have 3-hour workshops, which also are interactive, and they are just at the campus. But for this quarter, we have a different setup. So if you go to the next slide, you can see all the workshops we organized this quarter. And as you can see, we also have normal topics like effective teamwork and critical thinking, and some topics relevant for the current situation. And if you like this workshop, maybe also the work-life balance during quarantine is interesting for you guys. So this workshop is next week, also on Thursday. And you can still apply for this workshop. So hopefully we see you at one of the next workshops. And if, yeah, you can go to the next slide. If you have any further questions or want to know things about SkillsLab, you can always find us via those social media channels. So that was it. And now I would like to give the word to Jerre.
Thanks, Eline. Good to know what you guys are doing. And if you have any questions, please contact Eline as well. I think those workshops are really great and we get good feedback on them. And of course for you, it's nice to have some contact and some activities to do during the days, because I can imagine that it's kind of hard during these days to feel connected to the university. For today, some general rules, and this is also that you need to do with your group when you are collaborating online. It's all about setting the rules. And for this meeting, these are the rules. So it means when you want to speak, you need to unmute yourself, which is quite logical, of course. If you lose the connection, please try to return to the meeting. And it's all about high responsibility for yourselves, because this is different. I cannot give you assignments or whatsoever. So if you want to get the most out of this meeting, ask me all the questions that you have. Last but not least, it's an experiment. Some things might work brilliantly, others might be really not that good, and please reflect on that as well. So I will always start with rules, and if you look at how I set up the first slide of this meeting, then you see that I put a timer in here, so it's clear for everybody when we start, and I give the first rule: you activate your camera and you mute your microphone, which makes it clear on how we will start this meeting. And in general, if you have big groups you want to present to or you want to collaborate with, then the muting of your microphone is a good start, because you don't want all the background noises all the time. So it's a way in which you can start meetings. Now, I already told you, my name is Jerre Maas, digital entrepreneur, but also skill trainer. So normally I give communication skill workshops as well. And the company I just told you about, this LiveWall Group, we've already been talking about that. And what we see in the first weeks of the quarantine, in the first weeks that we were working at home, we really had to reinvent ourselves. So what we did was we started to do stand-ups each day at the beginning and each day at the evening, just to check on how everybody is working. It means that you connect a lot more, that you check in a lot more. And I think when you collaborate online, this is something that you need to do as well. So find a structure, maybe not a daily structure, but make it a weekly structure in which you say, okay, we want to meet each Tuesday at 4 o'clock to discuss with each other the process of our project or whatsoever. What I want to focus on with you guys are 3 topics. First, the general rules for online collaboration. Secondly, the tools that you can use and what you can use each tool for, and finally some tips and tricks. After each block, we have some room for Q&A. I found this beautiful picture of a dog, and I will put this on, and then you can type your questions in the chat, and Eline will reflect upon them and ask them to me, because I cannot see you guys right now, which is one of the big downsides of Google Meet, is when you share your screen, you cannot see the others anymore. And after each topic, we will have some time for Q&A. So type your questions in the chat. So that being said, let's start with the first topic. And I showed you already, it's about online collaboration. So for me, there are always some ground rules. And I think that in normal day-to-day collaboration already, when you do project work with people, it is already hard to set those rules. Because normally you would start by coming together. Then you say, you start doing this, you start doing that, you start doing that. And then you come together 2 weeks later, and then you found out that he didn't do anything, she forgot to do anything, etc. And when you cannot see each other, this makes it even harder. So it means you need to have some process information and some progress information. And therefore, you can use some of the tools. But I believe that it's really interesting to start by saying, okay, before we start dividing to work, let's make some ground rules. Let's say, for example, we meet each week. Let's say, for example, what we want to achieve with this group project. So it means, are we striving to get an 8? Or are we striving to get a 6? Or are we striving to get a 5.5? And what does that mean for all of us?
Yeah,
Let's be clear on how... Yes?
Sorry, can I interrupt you? There's somebody who wants to join still, and I don't know if that's possible.
Oh. Yeah, it is. If they but they are not... Yes, invite you. Very good.
Okay, thanks.
I invite you. Was that the one?
Yeah.
Eline? Okay. Invite you. Welcome. I just continue where I was. Please mute your microphone and activate your camera. So, about the ground rules. So make sure that you set those ground rules before you actually start collaborating. I think that's a really important start. Make sure that you are on the same page on what you want to achieve with this project, what you want to get out of it, and make some ground rules also on when you meet and how you meet. Interesting also is make notes. And I know that normally you guys don't do that. You just say, okay, you do this, you do that, you do that. But by making notes, you make sure that everyone is on the same page. Make notes and share them with each other. We decided that she will do this, he will do that, and that makes it clear on what's expected of everybody. Those are really small things you can do, and they are really interesting for online collaboration. It also means, I think somebody else wants to join, or is it the chat message, Eline? Message, I guess?
Yeah, it's a chat message.
Okay, that's good. We'll come back to that with the Q&A. So make sure you have an overview, and you can use some great tools for that as well. And make sure that you also are on the same page on responsibility. And this means free riding is not allowed. And make sure also that you are on the same page on what the consequences will be when somebody is free riding. So when somebody isn't doing their job, what will be the consequences? And this is not nice to start off your project work with, but it's better to have this clear at the first meeting than after 2 or 3 meetings when you find out that somebody is free riding and that you have to decide what the consequences will be of that. So this is a really short start just of the online collaboration part. Let's go to the first Q&A. Eline, can you read out the message to me that was just being sent?
Yes. In what way would you enforce those rules?
Yes, that's actually the last thing I said about consequences. So I would say that if you're on the same page at the beginning, then you can just be really strict about it. Okay, so it's great. I understand, Jan, it's been a tough 2 weeks for you. I understand. But 2 weeks ago, we decided together that this would be the consequence if you wouldn't deliver, or this would be the consequence if you wouldn't be on time in the meeting. So by making those consequences really explicit, I think you can actually enforce those consequences as well. But maybe sometimes you will do this together with a teacher. So that would be my advice there. Be clear about it and then enforce them. And I understand that that can be tough, but you know, it's just how it works. Other questions? Right. I think those are because you guys are smart people. I know that. I get that. So in general, you already know these kinds of things. So let's go on to the next topic, which is about tools you can use. And remember, those are tools that we use in our business on a day-to-day basis as well. So I want to share with you a couple of great tools that you can use for project work. Trello, Slack, some different meeting platforms, DotStorming, and file sharing tools. Let's start with Trello. I know many of you know this tool already, but if you don't know it, it's a great tool to make sure everybody do their tasks. And when you look at the right side of my screen, you can see the things that Ben has to do this week. And you can see that he put some cards in there, and we can actually see the progress in each card. For example, Engage Test has 30 things he needs to do within there, and he has done 1 this week. So I need to have a talk with Ben about this later this afternoon. It means that you can make different lists and you can allocate tasks to each person or to multiple persons. And by making, for example, a list to do, doing, and done, you can actually track the progress of everybody. So it means that you can see how everybody is doing, and it's a great central hub for you to see how the project is performing so far. And it's a great way also to do your meetings by actually getting the tasks here and see how everybody is doing. You can tag each other, you can ask each other questions, and it's a free tool, so it doesn't cost any money, which is great as well. So check out Trello. It's a really easy tool. I'll come to the questions later about the different tools. I want to show you Slack, which you might know as well. It's more a communication tool, and it makes it easier to communicate with your team. And why we use Slack instead of WhatsApp, for example, is that we can create different channels with the different teams, and that we have everything into one environment. It's for quick communication, so it isn't for mails or whatsoever, and it is, for us, only work-related. So all your social talk should be in another communication hub. So we use this to communicate about the different projects that are going on. And it works the same as your WhatsApp group or whatsoever, but the good thing is you can create channels, and especially when you have multiple project teams that you're working on, then this is a great tool to centralize all your communication about your projects. Check it out, it's free as well, and it's easy to use. So we like to use this one. Well, the third one are multiple meeting platforms, and I think you know many of them already. I want to focus on 3 of them, but I know there are many, many more, and each has their upsides and their downsides. For example, I already told you, Google Meet, upside, it's fast, it's stable, it's easy to use, but the downside is I cannot see you guys chatting when I'm sharing my screen. When we use Zoom, I would actually see you, and I would see how many chat messages came in already when I share my screen. But the downside is it has a lack of privacy still. If you look at Microsoft Teams, it's easy to use, but you need to have an account within your organization to be able to use it. So there are downsides, upsides of all of these meeting platforms. Feel free to use any one you like, and you can use FaceTime as well, and you can do a WhatsApp video call as well. But I would recommend you to do a video call instead of just emailing all the time. It has a benefit, especially when you are in a meeting, to see each other and to have the feeling we're all on the same page. This is the allocated time. We will talk for half an hour about our project and how it's progressing, and we do that each week, for example. So use one of the meeting platforms that you like. I want to focus on another platform that we like as well. It's a DotStorming platform, and especially when you are in the beginning of a project and, for example, you need to work out a concept, then DotStorming can work great. It's a little bit like Pinterest. So you just share your images, your videos, your files, your URLs, your articles on one board, and we can all comment on them and see what we like and what we don't like. Especially in the beginning of a project, it's a great way to gather ideas. And again, it's a free tool. I thought you all are students, So I only share free tools with you today. Last but not least, file sharing things. Also here, it's up to you what you like best, but I can really recommend Google Drive. And why do I recommend Google Drive? Because you can easily work real time in the same document. It's all centralized, and you can comment on each other, and you can make, you know, your Word files, you can make your Excel files, and all the files that you need, only not, of course, the really specific files like SPSS files or your design files. Therefore, you could use Dropbox or WeTransfer. But it's important, especially when you're online collaborating, that you have the same version of the file, and therefore Google Drive is a great way to share those files with each other. All right. And we all know Dropbox and WeTransfer, I guess. So let's go to the Q&A about the 5 different tools that I shared with you. Any questions, guys and girls?
There is a question what the difference is between Slack and Microsoft Teams.
All right. So for me, the difference is that Slack is more, let's say it otherwise. Microsoft Teams is in the beginning a meeting platform, in my opinion. So it's focused on videos and collaborating. I don't know all the functionalities of Microsoft Teams, but that's, for me, how we use it. It's in general a meeting platform, and Slack is a communication platform to make sure that you have all your communication centralized around the project. But maybe Microsoft Teams has been upgraded and has some functionality with that as well. But please share if you have, because I know these tools, not the latest ins and outs. So if you feel that Slack and Microsoft Teams are really alike, please share it with the other students right now. Unmute yourselves and enlighten us on what Microsoft Teams can do these days.
On Microsoft Teams, like you can actually create different work groups, and then on those work groups you can like share presentations or like even have a free chat. So at my internship, this is how we kind of use Teams, as well as video calls. So, yeah.
All right. So thanks for your addition. So it looks like Microsoft Teams has some great functionalities as well. I think the only downside to Microsoft Teams is that your organization needs to have it. Or Eline, does every student already get a Microsoft Teams account at your university?
Yeah, as far as I know, everybody has a Teams account.
Okay, that's good. Then I would definitely recommend, you know, it would be great if we have one tool that does it all. So therefore, I would definitely recommend to check if the functionality of Microsoft Teams is enough for you to communicate with each other on your project. So skip Slack then and focus on Microsoft Teams.
I would like to add that in Microsoft Teams, not all students are allowed to make a Teams or channels. They can only.
Okay. That's good. So, yeah, that's a good addition. Thanks.
Johan, is your question also answered?
Not really. My question was more about the cloud functionality of Microsoft Teams. And just to reply to the previous statement, as students, we can create teams on Microsoft Teams, just that we have to go through ICT, and then they tell us how to do it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I needed to know that.
Good, guys. That's good to know. So your question was on cloud functionality of Microsoft Teams. I cannot answer that. So I'm not a Microsoft Teams expert. But maybe somebody else can. Can you maybe clarify what your question exactly is?
So since Microsoft Teams has most functionalities that Slack has, I was kind of thinking that if they also have the same or almost all the same functionalities that we get from Google Drive, then we could just use Microsoft Teams only and not also use Google Drive or other outside platforms.
Exactly.
So like working on the same document at the same time or something like that.
Yeah, I have no idea if that functionality is available in Microsoft Teams. So for me, I was just showing you what the different options are. But it's good to learn that you guys, or at least the university, is recommending Microsoft Teams and what functionality is available over there. I think, Eline, that might be good to check if you can collaborate on documents as well over there, and that you can annotate and you can give remarks real time. Because then I would definitely recommend for all students to use Microsoft Teams instead of Google Drive combined with Slack combined with Teams. So it might be good to do a check on that as well.
Yeah. Okay, there's also another question.
Yeah.
It's can you directly react on posts on DotStorming, or do you have to use another channel for that?
No, you can directly respond to posts on DotStorming. So I just post a picture of my dog, for example, and others can say, "Oh, it's a cute dog." Or
Okay.
some more, good remarks about the project.
And I've also a question myself.
Yeah.
So using Slack, how do you make sure that the channels stay organized and structured, and every team member knows which channel to use for what purpose?
Yeah, that's a good question as well. And what I believe is that this is all about setting the ground rules. So, and this is something that goes to the tips and tricks section as well. Although not everybody likes to do project work, it's also about the social thing. And what I mean by that is when you do a group project, you drink coffee together, you make jokes together, and you laugh together, and maybe you even have lunch together. This is also part of project work, and I truly believe that you need to do that online as well. So make time for fun as well, because that makes the collaboration better in the end. And when we do video calls like this, then it's always really structured. You say, this is the topic we're going to talk about, this is what we're going to do, and we don't have time for fun in there. So what we did in our company is, for example, each day we can do random lunch calls. You just push a button, you say, I want to have lunch, and I'm connected to a colleague of mine who also pushed that button at that moment. So we're connected to each other, and there's one general rule: we can talk about everything except for work, to make you feel more connected to each other and to improve the collaboration. So the thing is, if you are talking about Slack, make sure that you have a different channel for the social stuff, and be clear about that in the beginning. So for example, me and my team, we have a WhatsApp group for all the GIF files and all the fun we want to share and all the jokes. And Slack is only content, is only real on the topic, it's work related. That's what we use Slack for. And then it's still about making the different channels. So we have a ground rule. We use Slack for business communication, and then we have different groups. This is about project A, about project B. This is about the research files. This is about, so, and that's the way in which we structure it. And it also means that when somebody makes a joke on Slack, we actually say, this should have been put in the WhatsApp group, just to make sure that everybody is on the same page. It isn't nice always, and especially for the international students, this is my advice: be Dutch. And with that, I mean be blunt, be direct, say what you like and what you dislike. Because online, by not meeting and seeing each other, things can be misinterpreted. So be very clear on what you think of certain topics. So that means when somebody is making a joke and you feel that's in the wrong channel, just confront them. Say, no, we have decided to put this in another channel. You can be nice and say, I like your joke first. You can say, I like your joke, but could you put this in the other channel? And I think that's something that makes it more easy to work together, because frustrations grow really fast when collaborating online. So be clear on the rules, and then there comes room for fun and interaction and for all the other stuff as well. So that's something I wanted to add to you guys. Were there other questions about the different tools, Eline?
No, no more questions.
Okay, so I definitely, what I take home for this is that Microsoft Teams can do more than I knew, at least. I would recommend you to have a look at Trello, because I still believe, or maybe somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, I still believe that that is a great tool to actually organize the work and the project. And I do not know if Microsoft Teams has implemented that functionality because it's really specific to a Trello functionality. So correct me if I'm wrong, if Microsoft Teams has to do functionality already. If not, then I would recommend you to do Trello. So let's continue. Final part, tips and tricks. Be Dutch. I already told you, accept the challenge and understand that it is a challenge. So what I say within our company is everybody in the Netherlands and all around the world has had a crash course video calling in the last 2 months. And we're all still finding out how it works. I know Google Meet is coming with an update in the next couple of weeks because they want to implement some other software, some other functionality to upgrade that tool. I know Microsoft Teams is working hard. I know Zoom is working really hard to improve their privacy. And what you see is everybody around the world is actually improving on their digital skills right now. But it is still a challenge, and we need to find a way to collaborate with each other. And I'm not an expert on this, you guys are not an expert on this, but only by sharing the experiences that we had so far, we can improve. And that means by saying to me, hey, Jerre, did you know that Microsoft Teams can do this and this and this? But also by sharing your experiences with each other. So what I would love to do right now is actually for you guys to share your tips as well with each other. So far I've been sharing my experiences, but please feel free to raise your hand right now, and I will quit my presentation for a while because then I can actually make sure that I see you guys and share your tips and tricks that you have found useful for the last couple of weeks. If you want to share something, please make sure that I can see you. So open your camera and raise your hand. I should be able to see that. No, a little bit. Please unmute yourself if you have a tip or trick that you want to share with the others.
Yeah, another great tool is Miro for online brainstorm sessions, which is basically a whiteboard, and you can structure it and add post-it notes and everything. And that's a very great way to stimulate the creative side of coming up with ideas instead of just doing it alone by yourself.
Thanks. And it was called Miro, right?
And Miro, I'll type it in the chat for you.
Okay, good. Good, guys. So in addition to DotStorming. Thanks, Miro. Thanks, Tom. Anyone else who has some things to add?
I'm also using a similar tool to Miro called Mural, like the wall, and it's also really similar. You have a whiteboard and you share a lot of things in there and you brainstorm. And as an industrial designer, I'm using it to also share different things with my also my colleagues, but also if I need to have a small presentation or something like that. The only downside is that you need to switch, so you either have a Skype call or Google Meets or whatever, but you also need to switch to Mural, and it's a bit annoying, I think.
Okay. Could you share the link to that in the chat as well, Sylvia?
Yeah, sure.
Thanks. Very good. So another addition to Miro. Yes, this is a great question. I like, Emil. I have a question. If you want to interrupt during a meeting, what's the best way to raise your hand online? Or since it's the right moment to speak? Well, this is all about the ground rules again. And during this call, I found out, or during this meeting, I found out, okay, it's not that nice that I cannot see you guys. For example, in Zoom, you can literally raise your hand by pushing the raise your hand button. But if I could see everybody, you can just physically raise your hand, of course. And in this meeting, I decided that you just put your questions in the chat. And I'm really happy that Elina was here to moderate the first couple of questions. The right time to speak, that's a really tough one. Because as a moderator right now, for example, I can also choose to say, okay, everybody should share a tip or trick with each other. And then I just start on top of my list. And then I say, Ashwat, could you please share one tip or one trick you have? So it's also about a little bit about meeting design. But the thing that happens in all calls right now is that people start talking at the same time. So it means when you ask an open question or when you structure your meeting, you can be really clear about it. And I would say, for example, Emil, if you want to have the progress, you just go to each member of the team and you say, okay, Hans, you start. Can you inform us on how the project is developing at your side? So by being really clear, now Hans is speaking, now he is speaking, now she is speaking, etc. But we're still finding out how this works perfectly. And so far, I like the way in which it's going so far. Nobody has been interrupting each other so far. So I don't have the answer to the question, but that's the start. I see another question popping in by Ashwat. While explaining a complex model topic, could you suggest some tips to ensure that people are on the same page? I would check in a lot of the time, Ashwat. So it means when I have a call in which we do a pitch, for example, then I ask after 2 or 3 slides, do you have any questions? Are we on the same page? And I try to reflect a lot. So I summarize a lot. We have been talking about this. When we do this, we have this and this and this. Okay, so then we're going to do that. And then you continue. So it means by summarizing a bit more than you would normally do, and just checking in all the time. Are we on the same page? Are there any questions? I think that's making sure. I know you had this answer for yourself as well. It's a little bit of an open door, but more asking if people are on the same page. Just asking them. But it's a tough one. I agree. And why is it tough? Just a little bit of reflection. Why is it tough? Because normally when you would present in a group, you can see non-verbal signals if people are not understanding. So it's the same for me. I'm talking to a screen right now. I cannot see your reactions. I'm not sure if you laugh at my jokes or not. I'm not sure if you like me or not. But normally in a room, if I would give this workshop live, I can see that we're on the same page all the time. And that's the communication we miss right now. So the only way we can do that is by communicating verbally or via text, and therefore we have to check a little bit more. Thanks for your question, Ashwat. Let's go back to the tips and tricks. Is there anybody else who would love to share a tip or a trick on online collaborating?
I have one. Usually when we have like a group discussion such as this, at the end, my manager basically asked me to make a deck of minutes of the meeting, and then show that everyone gets it. But I don't know if I do it in the right way. I just send an email to everyone, and probably using a forum like Teams or something else would be better. But yeah, that's what I do.
I would like to share with you something. I was checking if I can share it with you guys. Yes, I can. On how we do our meetings, because each day we have a meeting with the board of our company right now. And I just want to share a little bit with you on how this works. So we all open the same document. Let's see that it's not confidential material I'm sharing with you guys. I can show you this. So for example, this is Friday the 27th, the second session we had that day. We do a morning and an evening session. And here we can see the topics that we discuss. And sometimes you see this bar in yellow. And the yellow means it has an action to it. And every next meeting we'll just walk through the actions we did before. And we're all clear on the same page. Okay, this is the action we need to do. This is the action we need to do, etc. So because we're all working in this document, everybody can see who is doing the action and who is appointed to the action. And then we can check in the next meeting if all actions have been done. It's an easy way because we're all on the same page. And the downside of sharing it via email is that everybody can say, oh, I missed that email. Oh, I didn't get it. Oh, I wasn't sure that I needed to do that action. So by using one document that you share via OneDrive or that you share via Google Drive, then it becomes more easy to be literally on the same page. So that might be something that can help for you guys as well. Other tips and tricks. All right. Silence. Elina, is there something you would like to add?
No.
No, nothing to add. Then I hope you guys found it useful to attend this session. For me, it's a little bit different, and what I believe and what I hear, and I like that the most, and I hope you keep continuing doing this. We're all learning, and I'm learning from my employees as well each day, and we are improving each day in how we collaborate online, but there isn't a general guideline. This is how you need to do it. So I think the most important thing to you guys is talk to each other and be open on what you like and what you dislike when you are working online together. Set the rules with each other. Make sure that you have the same goal that you are working towards. And if you have any great ideas, or if you have any questions, or for example, if you are in a big fight with your team because something happened and you want to have my opinion on it, send me an email. I'm here for you guys to help you if it doesn't go well, and I would love to hear it when it goes well and you have some tips and tricks for us as a company, for me as a professional, but also for each other. I think that's the most valuable of this time. We're all experimenting here. We're all trying to do this in a great way. And I'm also keen to learn how you experienced this session, if it was useful or not, etc., etc. So I think, Elina, you will send out an evaluation?
Yes.
Is it true? Yeah. So please, guys, be critical on my performance and be critical on the content of this meeting, because we want to improve this part as well. And so let me know what you thought of it. So
I still see a question in the chat.
Oh, I missed it. Good.
Yeah.
What's the question?
It's saying I'm enrolled in a project that started during social quarantine. I believe team building is important for the group efficiently. Any tips on team building online?
Yeah, drink beer together. That's the tip. And I'm not joking, but actually you want to get to know each other a bit better. So there are many pub quizzes, for example, that you can join with your team. You can do, how's it called, home party. You can play a little game. You know, maybe just do a meeting in which you don't talk about the project, but you have lunch together, talk to each other for half an hour, and make sure you get to know each other. And this is the hardest part, because it might be that your fellow team members don't want that. And that's okay, except that they don't want it. But you could just say, for me, I would like to know you a bit better. We are collaborating. So what would you say if we grab a beer this afternoon and you just open Google Meet or video call or whatsoever? Just half an hour. Give it a limit, and maybe add some activity to it. So Tim, I like it that you want to do the team building. I think it's really important as well. But be aware that they might be Dutch as well, and be blunt to you and say, no, that's not necessary for us. And that isn't your fault in that case. Just see what they feel about it, how they feel about it.
Thank you for the whole masterclass.
I'm sorry, Tim, I missed that.
Thank you for your answer and the whole masterclass.
Okay. Thanks, Tim. Thanks. Okay, guys. So I had a great ending until the question of Tim came in, but I hope you understand what I mean. Please contact me if you have any further questions or if I can help you with anything. But most importantly, talk to each other on how you can better collaborate online. This is what we had for you this afternoon.